Good morning, Barry. Thank you for getting involved in Business Owner Spotlight. Would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a bit about what you do?
Morning, Scott. My name is Barry Gray. I 20 years in architectural practice. Recently branched into businesses such as Recovery at the Hub, which is a sports recovery facility, and Childcare nursery for the last 8, 10 years. Quite a broad range of businesses there, but primarily spent most of my time in architectural practice with great design over the last 20 years.
And that's interesting. There's such a diverse range of businesses. What was it that took you that direction? Was it passion, or did you just see a gap in the market? Or
Passion on the recovery end of things, yes, probably more of a sports background. I've been involved in senior coaching with soccer teams in the last 20 odd years as well. So the recovery end of things probably was born through my sports involvement. Childcare was a bit of a left field, to be fair. Both my kids were in a nursery that the owner had taken terminally ill about 8, 9 years ago, and the nursery was closing, and I thought it would be a great idea to take it on. So no more motivation than just trying to keep my own two kids in childcare at the time, I suppose. But that's 8 or 9 years ago now. We haven't looked back, to be fair. So.
That's really interesting. So who would be your ideal customer? Who would you most like to speak to about the recovery side of things?
On the recovery side of things, primarily we work with everyday people, both in sports and out of sports. You know, people that are on their feet all day in their work, sitting in the car all day, driving a van, and then we have the other end of the business, which is very much the sports related side. So semi-pro, professional people in all walks of sport, or activity. I say sport loosely. It doesn't have to be your normal sport. So anyone that's physically active and competing, we tend to work a lot with on the recovery, post-recovery stuff from events and things like that. So a very broad range of users. And then you've got obviously the people that just need an hour to themselves, that find a way to relax the body, relax the mind, and that's totally fine. And it's believe it or not, more and more common today that we would find in the recovery side that, you know, it would have been always very much related towards sports, where you see more and more that just a normal, I don't mean that in a bad way, just your normal person, just like me or you or anyone else.
Yeah. And what about the architecture side of things then? Do you have like a niche there, or is it like commercial or residential, or?
Architectural and the things. I was part of Grey Design for nearly 20 years. Recently, I've just stepped aside and now run a company called Grey Consulting, which is a more construction consulting arm to architecture. That means that we consult on design work. Them 20 years we focus very much on the commercial market. Always done a wee bit of residential, high end, one-off residential. But a very, very, very workload. Obviously over the last 20 years we've seen lots of challenges in the construction industry. So it led us down paths and avenues that maybe we wouldn't have chose, you know, offhand, but Musto was a great master in certain years. So we have quite a broad range and experience in terms of where architecture has led us over that period.
I'm really intrigued, about the childcare side of things, where you saw like there was an opportunity came up and you grasped it. I'm just doing the quick maths. You must have been about 10 or 12 years in the business at that point. Was it just a matter of like the principles are the same, or was it a totally different journey and getting into a different industry and a different business like that?
It was very different, and it still is very different. It's different, very different than any other business that I've ever been involved with, to be fair. It is a service end, but it's a service end at the most vulnerable, if you like. So
Sure.
I know, speaking as a father, the way you treat yourself and then the way you treat or you'd like your own kids to be treated is very different.
Yeah.
As I said, my kids were in the nursery at the time, and the lady that owned it had taken cancer, so and she had a terminal diagnosis, so it was a tough time for them as a family. It was a family-led business, and some of the kids had stepped in to try and continue it, and it just didn't work for them. It wasn't their initiatives and whatever. And listen, it was an opportunity that we thought we had known all the staff that was there. Was 20 odd staff in the building at the time, and it was historically a local childcare facility that was renowned for its service. So you're better not knowing what you're getting into.
Yes, yeah.
For and that was one of them situations that I found myself just with little knowledge of actually the back end of the business in childcare. Lots of knowledge in the front end and the care end and stuff like that. We're being a father and 2 young kids, and but to be fair, we inherited a really, really good management team, really good staff members, and that they are the drive of the business. They're the front of house. They're what parents engage with every single day, and they're the ones that look after the kids. And listen, our motto in First Steps is kids come first, and it's a simple motto, but it would surprise you in this day and age how many people just don't see that as a priority.
Yeah, simple but very effective.
Yeah.
So yeah, interestingly then, like what would be your biggest learning when you say, like it's probably better that you don't know everything. What's been your biggest learning since you've been in business then?
And during our business life, Scott, that there's been recessions, there's pandemics, there's so while you're in business 20 years, a lot of that 20 years has been actually quite difficult. It's been like I said earlier in the architectural end of things, it led us down paths that we may not have ever chosen, but the market dictated that's where we went. The big learning thing for me always has been to never underestimate the people that you have around you and the people that work for you, especially at the very highest level. Them people are the day-to-day of your business. They're the people that you should continue to value at the very highest level. And it's easy when things are going well that you just do the same as you done yesterday. And nobody wants to be in that environment. Nobody wants to work in that environment. Nobody wants to be part of that environment. So you always have to be seen to be progressive, to see where the niches are in your business, what you do, what you provide, and try and be that front edge the best you can. You don't have to be the biggest. You don't have to be leading the market at the very highest levels. You just have to establish where you are in your market and do a really good job on the front side of that. And I'm a big believer in the people that you have working for you as part of your management team, the people that are front face, particularly in childcare, because the parents don't see me. I own the business, I run the business in the back end of it, but they don't hand their children over to me every morning. They accept that I'm a successful businessman. The business will be safe, but their kids are safe with the staff that they're handing them over to. So that's the importance for me, would be very much led towards that.
It's when I talk to people on these podcasts, it's a common theme, get the right people in the right place. What, like go back 20 years and, was there any fear and trepidation around bringing people into the business? And, what sort of courage does it take just to get out of the way and give that control over to people to run, be at the coal face of your business?
Yeah, it is difficult. I think it's difficult when you start from scratch with yourself. When your first day was you, and as you build, the people around you have to build in the same notion and expand in that sort of, in that environment. When you expand and grow and when you diverse that wee bit, you have to hand over responsibility, and that's the part that we all probably struggle with. For me in particular in the architectural business, because I was hands-on, that's what I'm qualified to do. And that's where I started, on the drawing board with a pen in my hand to be managing a team of architects underneath me And as time went on, you lessened and lessened what you were qualified to do every day, and you became more
Right.
of a business related. In the childcare end of things, because you started with a team,
Yes.
it's always been quite that wee bit easier, because obviously I'm not trained or
Yes.
qualified in
You
childcare.
don't see you see yourself as an architect, that's your kind of identity, so it's harder to give that away then as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, it is. And again, it's I think when you start from nothing, and it's
Yes.
yours, as
Yeah,
you
yeah.
build it, it dilutes and it becomes everybody else's baby
Yeah.
in the same fashion. So, um, but if you don't grow with that, and if you don't, I'm not saying you can let full responsibility go
No.
to anyone else. That doesn't work in my opinion either. But you definitely have to give people the power to do things that are right for
Yeah,
your business, and that's the tricky piece.
it is. It definitely, it definitely is. And tell me what would be the biggest learning you've had about yourself since you've been in business then?
Like I said earlier, we've been through lots of difficult times in
Sure.
business, not related directly to us, but just everybody, if you want to say it, in the world or in this area,
Yeah.
whether it be 8 or 9 years of recession and then 2 or 3 years of pandemic. So the biggest learning point, it's funny what you can do when you have to.
Mm.
And I think people should never be afraid of stepping outside their comfort zone.
Yeah.
You rarely choose it. We rarely choose to do it
Yeah.
by, our own admission. Um, but because of like the pandemic and recessions and things like that over the years, it's forced me to a scenario where being, if you want to get it done, you'll have to do it yourself, regardless. Maybe you're in situations where you couldn't afford to appoint other people to
Sure.
do certain things that they're better at than you. And I've found that when you sit down and you break big, big, big tasks that you feel uncomfortable doing into smaller tasks, and try and understand each step of it, it's amazing what you can do for yourself
Yes.
when you have that time and motivation to do it. And I think business will survive or it'll fail in that notion, because
Yes.
if you're not willing to push your own boundaries, I think in business you're going to find it really difficult, over the
Yeah.
longer run.
Yeah, I think wise words there for sure, Barry. And what about then? What about the next 5 years for you guys? You've got a group of companies there, and what's the next 5 years look like? And what do you see as the main challenges moving forward?
I think at this minute in time, a challenge in general terms, for any business, and speaking to lots of business owners over the last wee while, is obviously rising costs,
Mm.
uncontrollably rising costs, um, and staffing, the distinct lack of available staff, and
Yeah.
that's across lots of industries, whether that's in the construction, architectural businesses, or recovery or childcare. We see a trend there that's that's prevalent across all markets. Which brings me back to investing and making sure that then people that you have on board at
Yeah.
this moment in time are well protected and well looked after and well motivated to keep doing their jobs for you. So, but yeah, next 5 years looks for us. It's about steady growth. In all, we've got businesses that are at their infancy, and we've got businesses that's further, on in their path. So it's exciting times for us, because you've got that mix and you've got that mix of market. So
Yeah.
everything that you do in one of them markets will work in the other two. And that's the niceness of having that diverseness.
Yeah.
But for us, it's about steady growth. It's about building that team that we talked about in and around us, to make sure that we continue to get stronger on that side and try and get out to the front of the pack and be good at what we're doing on a consistent basis. But stability and steady growth would be the two things that we would target in the next 5 years.
Awesome. Sounds cool. So, last question to finish up. Always like to finish on this one. If you could go back in time and speak to an 18-year-old Barry, what's the one piece of advice you would give?
Yeah, don't let anybody quash your dreams. The industry in business, there's lots of people that will line up to tell you can't do it. Lots of people that will tell you it'll never work,
Mm.
or all the negatives that you can think of. Glass half full characters. I'm not one of them characters. Probably in my earlier days, I would have been closer to half full than half empty. But one thing I've learned is your dream's yours. Nobody can take that away from you. And if you want your dream hard enough, if you're really serious about doing it, and you have that work ethic to keep working towards it, don't let anybody stand on that. Don't let anyone push that down. Keep it fresh in your mind. It may not always be financially driven. It may not always be, career driven. If you've got that wee mini dream in business, you follow it, but back it up with the most intense amount of hard work that you can possibly give it.
Yeah, awesome. I really appreciate that, Barry. Some brilliant bits of advice in there. Can't wait to share that with everybody. Thanks for coming on, getting involved.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate that.